Welcome back to Lost Odyssey. So now time for the Ice Canyon.
So
it's not a very creative name, but like me and Teo said, the Final Fantasy IX's Ice Dungeon is called Ice Cavern, so I guess I can't complain.
And cue the Gen 2 Ice Cave music.
So yeah, while we freed the town of its vile magic, apparently the resulting blast caused a climate change which made things icy over here.
But hey, now we can actually... But now we can reach Gohtza in foot, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, basically that's the opposite of that. The glacier was always there, but a lightning strike actually opened up a passage.
I mean, I'd rather have something like this than the game blatantly feeling like it's wasting my time, so whatever.
Let me check something.
Also, Raptor. Yes, we're fighting kind of Velociraptors, kind of.
Cold-blooded creature in a glacier.
Dinosaurs that actually survived the Ice Age.
I guess maybe that's the thought process. So.
Yeah, insert Batman and Robin joke here. Yeah, basically.
Alright, I guess I can use this time to mention what I was going to do in one of the previous parts of Jova. Alright, just to give you an idea about the Tales of franchise, presence on console. And we're gonna stick to the main title because there's a lot of shit on spin-off that have no real place for the time being.
Mothership titles.
Yeah. First one, Fantasia for the Super Famicom, never localized, only up until the Game Boy Advance, version was localized. The PlayStation version got a fan translation.
That's a definite way to play it. Yeah.
The team that did it, was not very satisfied and went on to actually found Tri-Ace, and they tried again with the Star Ocean franchise, where they're still working on.
So you're telling me that Tri-Ace was born from a fan project?
Well, not a fan project. It was still Fantasia was an official game. Not an official game published by Namco.
What happened was Jova, Namco changed. His name is Gohtza, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah. Gohtza was the original director of Tales of Fantasia, but Namco wanted the game to be more anime than he intended, and he didn't like Namco's mandates, so he quit along with half the team to fund his own studio so he could make his own sci-fi RPG with blackjack and hookers.
Still relatively anime, so I don't know what happened, but sure.
Okay, I was a bit confused because the wording made it sound like Tio said that the makers of the fan translation went on to play.
I think it's because Tio, if you go back and check the original character designs before Gohtza left, they were less anime than the final ones in Fantasia, to be fair.
I suppose. Anyway, Joe, Tales of Destiny followed. PlayStation exclusive. It was localized for just America. I'll get used to that. Later received a remake on the PS2, never localized. And I mean a proper remake, 3D and
Fortunately, now allow me to. Fortunately, Life Bottle Productions, they're a fan group of Tales of that does translations. They did a full-blown translation of the PS2 remake, which can be very easily emulated on PCSX2, so just play it there.
Yeah, the PS2 version is the definitive edition of the game anyway, so...
It was fun fact.
Sounds like you'll be constantly mixing in official releases with fan translations.
Fun fact, the PS2 remake of Destiny was actually directed by Hideo Baba.
Then there's Tales of Eternia, originated on PlayStation, got localized only in America.
But Teo, don't you mean Tales of Destiny 2?
That is listed that came out later, actually.
No, don't you remember, Teo? The original American release of Tales of Eternia, they renamed it to Tales of Destiny 2 to capitalize on Destiny's success.
Oh, I didn't know that because I basically dropped away what I'm about to say. It later got an actual new release for the PSP, which also got localized for Europe.
Yeah, and that one actually has the proper title. So
actually, it says that here that it got localized only for Europe and Australia, not America.
Yeah. So, that being said, PSP games are region free, so you should still be able to get it fine.
That is still technically the definitive version of the game because, of course, added new content and stuff. But from what I remember, someone mentioned that the game is slightly desaturated in terms of color palette compared to the PlayStation version. I'll let you check up. Then there's the real Destiny 2. PlayStation 2 exclusive, later got a PSP port, never localized.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that they called an unrelated game Tales of Destiny 2 only for there to actually turn out to be an actual
Yes.
Tales of Destiny
They did
2.
it all the time, Jova. It's kind of similar how they rename stuff like, say, the Clock Tower games in order to match more, or Kingsfield in order to match the Western release. Because back then there was no internet and people relied only on, gaming magazines. So a lot of gaming companies and Western publishers
It was
were let's just rename so people can just eat them up. But
It was a common trend back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where companies thought, okay, if we insert this famous name and add a 2 on it, even though this game is unrelated.
It's a behemoth.
No, it's not. They're not trying to do a Final Fantasy style behemoth. It's more of a proper behemoth compared to the Final Fantasy one.
Oh yeah, I get that, but cute and when you think Sakaguchi and behemoth.
Yeah.
I get you.
But in this case, that's the thing. I still don't understand how the hell Square Enix hasn't sued Compile Heart, because the behemoth in Fairpent Seraph and Dark Force
Behemoth is taken from the D&D bestiary, and it's a mythological creature from the Bible.
Okay, never mind.
So I
then.
guess technically,
much like the Leviathan in Bahamut.
Okay then.
So if anyone would try to sue them, that would either be D&D or
Sure.
No, because even then, no, because it's public domain stuff.
My son, I am suing you for stealing from me. But
But yeah. In regards to the Tales of Destiny 2 stuff, I know that it was a common practice back then. I just find it funny because from what Tios described, it sounds like Tales of Destiny 2 was the first time that a Tales of game got a direct sequel.
Yes.
Yeah,
So obviously it was a problem.
That's because back then Destiny had been proven to be basically the most popular title that they did, so they did the equivalent of Toy Story 2 and capitalized almost immediately on it.
Yeah. So get this, Jova. Up until this point, the first game came out on Super Nintendo, and the next two came out on the PS1. So you'd think after Eternia, the next game would be on the PS2, right? It's like Destiny 2
This is where Symphonia enters the story.
Yes, and for whatever reason, my guess is they decided to go with the GameCube because the GameCube was more powerful, as demonstrated at the fact that the PS2 version of that game doesn't have a 60 FPS. So my guess is it was a developer decision. And all.
As I also mentioned that during our Xenogears commentary that back then the new CEO Namco wanted to actually boost the range of IPs, and that included also revitalizing what they had. With like fresh starts of something, and this is also why Symphonia was the first official proper worldwide release for Tales of games. Europe and Australia got these two fair and square at that point, 2004.
I'll admit, as somebody who never really followed the Tales of series before, I honestly used to think Symphonia was the start.
The thing is that they pulled something similar to Resident Evil 4 and made a PlayStation 2 almost immediately after, which had the new content, but in this case, the West never got it until the remaster on the PS3, which is now on, PC, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One.
Symphonia also has a long history of problems where that PS2 version was the basis for all the subsequent ports, and each individual port that followed always had major issues. The PC version, as well as the recent remaster, are now fine. They're still not technically the best way to play it, but they're serviceable. One of the main reasons is because the PS2 version slightly changed how the dialogue is delivered, right? Problem is, because they didn't go back and redub the PS2 version when it was released in the West. There are certain lines of dialogue from the GameCube original localization that get cut and removed because, again, in order to properly adapt the new script, they would have to get all the actors to redub the entire game, and Namco wasn't willing to spend that much money on that. So
Speaking as somebody who's, not deep in the Tales of fan base, the three titles I probably hear brought up the most are Symphonia, Vesperia, and Berseria.
Again, all in order, Drova. Symphonia will actually receive a direct sequel a few years later on the Wii called Dawn of a New World with the subtitles, which from what I heard has been very polarizing, both as a sequel and a standalone title. I still have to try myself.
I like it, but I understand why a lot of people don't. Symphonia is best way to play. is via Dolphin or a modded Wii U. As for the sequel, play the PS3 version, because the PS3 version not only ran at 60 FPS completely, it removed the tacked on Wii motion controls minigames.
Weirdly enough,
What was Tales of...
weirdly enough, Dawn of the New World has never been ported after that.
That is true.
which is weird.
That is true. But if you have a decent enough PC, you can very easily emulate it on RPCS3. Trust me, I've tested it myself. Like, it's a very easy game to emulate.
In the following years, Jova, the PS2 received 3 more exclusive Tales, and this time they stuck around for a while. If I recall correctly, they received, some of them received. Oh, sorry. The first Tales of Rebirth did receive a PSP port in 2008, but was never localized at all. So, and I think it is also fan translated, but it's one of the much more obscure and one of the ones that probably need the remaster treatment the most. Then there's Legendia, which was released in 2005, localized only in America, and that's it. And then there's another one of the people fan favorite, Abyss, which was localized only in America, but later, a few years later, received a port on the Nintendo 3DS of all things. This one actually was localized also for Europe and Australia, but I did test it myself, and compared to the PS2, yeah, it's just very clunky to play.
I'm sorry.
Unfortunately.
I'm sorry. Could you remind which one again? Sorry, too.
Abyss.
Oh, a bit. Yeah. Well, the base. Yeah, no. Emulate the PS2 version. Trust me. Especially because recently fans have actually been working on a HD texture pack that, unfortunately, from my testing, the HD texture pack is still not very well optimized, so it has issues a lot of times. So, that being said, playing just the game as it is. Just upscaled through the emulator looks really good in my opinion. So I'm not to mention one thing I do recommend if you play Abyss on emulated, use a mod that inserts the Japanese voices into the skits. I personally prefer to play Tales games in English because I actually really love the English dubs of the Tales of games. So I actually fortunately a fan made for that with a partial undub mod, which puts the Japanese voices back in, but only for the skits, because the skits are silent in both Symphonia and Abyss in English. So.
Alright, we're about to get story-related stuff, so I'll wait until we're done.
Well, technically, this is just a thing of these things are just creatures, but this doesn't really have anything to do with the story.
This is the end of the road for you. Humans are the ones who stole our elbow crown, and humans are what's in front of me now.
That's
Gather
certainly
forth, my
racist.
companions,
Yep.
and slay those humans.
That's super racist.
Go ahead.
Ah, monsters. I really have no idea what's going through their little brains.
Yep, we can't
I
understand
know.
them.
Wow, and Seth is just as racist.
Well, to be fair, I get the feeling she just can't understand them.
We had best be careful, though.
Huh, leave this one to me. Let me show him what happens to thieves dumb enough to steal from me.
okay.
Oh boy, everybody, Jensen's gonna solve this one, and by that we mean beat the shit. And by that we mean beat the shit out of them. Okay, so Jensen decided to take the dibs approach. Okay,
It's the universal language, violence.
go on, too.
Around the same time, the only one major spin-off that I will actually mention is a game that where is it? That they did for the Nintendo DS. That would be Tales
Tempest?
from the World. Yeah, Tales of a Tempest. Yes.
Yeah.
I only bring it up significantly because the two titles that are made after it, which became mainline stays, are considered technically sequels to that. Tales of Innocence and Tales of Hearts.
Wait. So let me get this straight. There were mainline games that were sequels to a spin-off.
I mean, again, it's on the fact that they operate on their own micro continuities, But to be fair, the team actually, always try to specify if it's a case or not during development, so they don't really catch you off guard, basically.
So I'm curious, what made that game a spin-off while its sequels were mainline ones?
Because it was really, if I recall correctly, it had even a different type of gameplay compared to the other major tales of the time. And it was actually the first major spin-off for the major title for Nintendo DS. While both Innocence and Hearts did have a gameplay that resembled more the old titles like Fantasia. the thing is that neither of them were localized on NDS. If I recall correctly, they did receive French translation. Eventually, both titles were ported on the PS Vita, and only Hearts was localized. And badly too. It did not receive. I actually played it. That's one of the reasons why I still bought a PS Vita. I still have it right now.
I actually recently got myself Vita 3K, the Vita emulator, and Hearts R plays really well in it, so you can emulate it as well.
It has a good gameplay, admittedly, there's the Vita version, but I can say, Jova, it has no English dub, and the translation feels half-assed. Like, they did not give too much of a shit. And again, you can kind of tell because, Innocence did not get any same treatment.
Yeah.
Right now, those are some of the few major important third-party titles still stuck on the Vita, but they're not being ported.
Don't forget Legendia too.
I already mentioned.
Oh, okay. In that case, let me mention something. Go on, Jova, then, before I go.
It says something that even with the internet as it is nowadays, it sounds like keeping up with the whole series is a challenge in and of itself.
Oh.
I have to applaud the people who were doing that before the internet is what it is today.
Yeah.
'Cause, man, what a arduous journey.
For a
that
long time,
sounds
Bamco was doing a poor job of keeping these games available. Fortunately, that seems to be changing because Tomizawa, the current head of the series, announced the remastered project. So we're gonna get. But one thing I'd like to mention about Legendia before Teo continues is that Legendia has a problem with its localization, where they only dubbed the first half of the game. I'm not kidding. If you play the game, no, I'm not kidding you, Jova. The first half of the game is dubbed in English, but the second half of it, most of the second half of it, is in Japanese.
Like I said, Jova, Abyss, is very beloved and probably an easier conversion to do. But Rebirth and Legendia are the PS2 titles that probably need attention the most of the package. Technically speaking, also the Destiny duology, but I argue, those two in the middle.
Yeah.
But even on this,
But it's okay. Just a moment too. But it's okay because once again we have to rely on the fans to handle things. Because Laugh Bottle Productions made a undub that puts in all of the Japanese voices in the entire game. Or if you really want, so basically just play the game with the Japanese voices. So you entirely especially because the English dub is not very good.
Not only that, I'm amazed. The game that was only half translated, I'm surprised that did not make big gaming news.
Well, technically,
you have to understand, Joel, that before the title, Symphonia did made news and everything, beloved by people, but by the time of the PS2 era, Tales of it started to dwindle and not many people were caring, not also by the fact that Namco was not localizing them, exporting them in the West properly.
So a bit of a slump era.
That changed with the next title, Vesperia, exclusive for the Xbox 360 for the reasons that we mentioned, so there's not much to add. Then you received the PS3 port, and more recently it got the Definitive Edition. It was also part of a package of Bandai Namco wanted to be cheeky with the fan base because there's an infamous meme about a Twitter user asking them when they were going localized. They responded to the user no, not that one. But eventually, when the Definitive Edition got announced, they contacted that specific user and they gave him a free copy. That was actually pretty good.
I would recommend. You can easily enjoy them very well on either platform, but if you do have a capable PC, which you should because the game is easy to run, I recommend playing the Steam version with Chaldean's Tales of Vesperia fix because unfortunately they did not remove the annoying blurry Vaseline filter that so many 7th generation games had from the remaster, but so the fans had to do that for them basically again.
So you think, Jova, that they found new ground on the new generations, with the 360 and maybe the PS3? Then there comes Tales of Graces, a Wii exclusive that was not localized until it received the PS3 port later, and wisely at that point, since it was the Definitive Edition, that one actually got an international release, which is the one that's also getting the remaster treatment more recently by the time recording this.
Did Bamco just decide how they release these things with a dartboard or some sort of...
You have to understand, Jova, because Final Fantasy was doing the same thing at the same time. It was more a case of third-party titles where basically PMCs offering themselves to one of the big three and asking who was offering the most money for them to put their product on.
Yeah.
It was
if I
basically-
recall,
It was basically,
Park
it's still
Regiment.
happening to this very day because Rebirth, has inherited mechanics tied to the PS5, DualSense. So you can kind of tell that it was more a contractual thing that Sony asked Square Enix to do.
But yeah,
But,
you can. But that being
if
said,
I recall correctly, Dragon Quest X never got localized.
That's
did it?
because
No.
it's an MMO.
they're localizing the offline version though.
Thankfully, Joe,
Oh.
the next two games that happen after managed to stay firmly as PS3 exclusive, at least so far. There's speculation that they will get the remastered treatment eventually, especially because there is a conversion, and they got proper international releases. The Xillia duology,
Yeah.
which also were the another point where the franchise was starting to sell again. Vesperia was already a big hit, but this was continuing. And then Zestiria showed up.
Sure, I do hear.
Uh,
Oh
That-
yeah.
It was a cross-gen. It was a cross-gen, game for PS3, PS4, and PC. Don't even bother with the PS3 version, please.
No,
but,
I have the PS3 version. The load times are atrocious, and man, there's no anti-aliasing whatsoever. Soray looks like he's a fucking hedgehog. Go
and
on.
unfortunately,
I will say, going from Xillia to Zestiria was jarring because I recall around the time of Xillia, that's when Tales was getting praised.
Zestiria
Yeah.
actually had a
Just
lot of
suddenly
IP in
hear
the
everyone-
market. That's the thing. Zestiria also had a lot of IP in the marketing. It was very acclaimed.
It was the 20th anniversary title. Yeah.
The same team behind it and everything, and someone somewhere really flopped with the story, really, and also
See-
the gameplay. The gameplay is much, compared to the Xillia duology, the gameplay of Zestiria is much slower, and it's far less enjoyable. for some
They
reason.
tried to iterate on the Gris's F battle system, but did it very terribly. Okay, now we're going to save real quick, and we're done.
Yeah, I
what-
can save it for another part. Go on,
we
Pedro.
can continue in the next part, but one thing I will mention about Zestiria. See, here's the thing, and just for the sake of saying something different, like I don't even hate Zestiria. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I guess that's the best way I can put it, because the sad part about
As the old saying goes, that's a hell of a ton worse.
the sad part about Zestiria is that I like a lot of what it's doing. Like it's returning to the world map, to the traditional world map. Kind of like what Dragon Quest VIII did. Like it's trying to bring back the world map mechanic by doing it the Dragon Quest VIII route, which is a good way to do it. And it was the sad part about Zestiria. There was a lot of controversy about a certain character who was very very relevant in the marketing, but she only was like a minor character who didn't show up much in the game.
And supposedly got replaced with another one that people speculated was a fan favorite of the team instead.
So that's the thing.
So let me get
That's the
this
thing
straight.
too. Rose is my favorite character in Zestiria. That's the sad part.
No, I understand that. I was talking about on a meta level rather than the actual.
Sure.
Was she actually heavily marketed, or was
Yes.
it more that fans latched onto her in the?
Let me put it this way, Jova. There was a lot of she was very prominent in the marketing, and there was even an OVA that came out right before the game that told us the first half hour or so, right? And it made it heavily implied that she was going to be playing a major role, if not be the outright. The Tales of Zestiria, the Cross, which is basically the anime adaptation, did try to fix it by making her the secondary female protagonist. So they basically tried to come up with a compromise, right? The sad part is that the character that got replaced, the actual real female protagonist of Zestiria, got a lot of hate because of that, right? The sad part is that I find Alicia to be utterly boring, and Rose, the character that was the real, I actually find her the best character in the game. My thing with Rose is that she's a great character. I just hope she was in a better game. That's the sad part.
Again, there's a bigger discussion that can be had that it's best reserved when you actually get to the game because it's just a kind of worms.
See ya.
See ya for next part.
But